Beleza, galerinha, vamos lá então continuar farmando aqui até começar o evento da Microsoft. E larai, essa Sony cagou o pau para tudo aí, mano, tá louco.
Carga entregue.
Só vendo os caras chorando aqui.
Se preparem para uma briga. Temos que lutar para chegar no rei. Recarregando! Abrir fogo!
Ai, caralho, a zoeira na internet tá foda. Mano, a internet hoje é uma loucura.
A bomba tá pronta. Tá hesitando, é? Tem que ficar junto. Podemos sair dessa bagunça. Confrontando! Recarregar!
Ai, caralho, esse cara tá fora no Twitter. Vou transmitir sim, acho que é 4h30, né? Enquanto isso eu vou farmando aqui o Gear, vou trocando ideia com a galera. Ai, ai, tá muito foda o Twitter. Ai, ai, ai. Foi engraçado.
A bomba tá
Vou ver o negócio aqui.
Hora de começar. Se a gente ficar junto, podemos sair dessa bagunça. Confrontando! Recarregando!
Ah, pra você mais cedo? Ah, é bom, é melhor ainda. Eu também tô curioso, eu acho que não vai mostrar muita coisa também não, acho que vai ser bem tedioso essa coisa da Microsoft aí. Acho que vai ficar só em coisa de xCloud, essas coiseiras aí. Mas tem aquele rumor que meio que eles entregaram lá um carinha ontem lá no evento lá, eles falaram algo sobre 16 estúdios da Microsoft. A Microsoft só tem 15. Tem um, pode ser que eles apresentem mais um pequeno estúdio que eles compraram aí. Isso aí é. Depois dessa representação da Sony, o que vier é lucro, velho, do Xbox. Mano do céu. Os caras tava com o faco e o queijo na mão e não fizeram nada. Nada. Bom, eles vão ter que fazer outro anúncio, né? Eles vão ter que fazer outra apresentação, porque não mostrou o console em si, não mostrou nada. Não mostrou os jogos. Eu acho que eles vão esperar lá perto da E3 pra fazer depois da Microsoft. Só ficou em blá 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 lá e... É, a coisa tá feia mesmo, hein? Pô, decepção, velho. Queria retro no do Play 3, cara. Retro pro Play 4 não me interessa, pô. O Play 4 é de boa, roda de boa, tranquilo.
Bomba de veneno armada. Agora não tem volta. Lutar pra chegar no rei. Atacando! Tô recarregando!
Terminou? Mas ela é por tempo? Como que é? Funciona aí? Ou é só chegar até uma parte que termina? Qual jogo que eu tô mais ansioso da nova geração? Cara, não sei, ainda porque não mostrou praticamente quase. Mostrou pouquíssimos jogos ainda, né? Vamos ver quando mostrar tudo, né? Ah, até uma parte que termina, entendi. Quanto tempo deu mais ou menos aí de jogo? Uma hora? Esse gato vai morrer 3 vezes por dentro. Vixe. Vixe. Vixe, não quero nem ver no jogo final, então. Vai pegar no lançamento Resident 3? Eu já peguei o meu já.
A bomba tá pronta. Hora de começar. Bora, vamos para o ponto de chão.
Resident 3 tá garantido. Agora eu só acho que eu não sei se eu vou conseguir nem o The Last of Us, nem o Ghost of Tsushima, cara. Porque essa porra do meu celular que quebrou a tela vai me fuder, velho. Isso aí, velho. Puta que pariu, cara. Olha a hora que vai quebrar o negócio, cara. Negócio novinho, mano. Foda, mano. Tem que arrumar esse negócio agora. Duro que eu tô preso com um monte de, assim... Eu não consigo gravar os unboxings agora também, cara. Eu vou ter que pegar o celular... Ah, duro que o celular da Marcela é muito ruim, cara. Vou ver se eu pego o celular do meu irmão pra gravar rapidinho. Pô, que merda, cara. Que zica que fui derrubar o celular, cara. Que zica. Tá parecendo japonês mesmo aí, pô. Tá parecendo os hentai japonês, pô. Menino de sainha, tentáculo, pô. Só espero que chegue aqui perto do lançamento, né? Não atrase tanto. Carlos, fala uma ideia da hora pra colocar na minha conta. Vixe, sei lá, mano.
Carga entregue. Destruir por dentro. Hora de achar o ponto de extração. Hora de lutar! Recarregar!
Não sou muito bom pra ficar escolhendo nome, não. Ah, eu também sou bem sem ideia pra essas coisas. Sei lá, pega de alguma coisa que você gosta, sei lá. Com alguma coisa, algum nome ou personagem que você gosta, sei lá. Ué, esse nick no YouTube não dá pra pular? Tá aí, Carlos Gui BR. Acho que dá pra pular, ué. Tenta pôr seu nome mesmo, sei lá. Então, quando eu fui criar minha gamer tag, eu tentei colocar primeiramente meu nome. Mas já tinha. Aí eu lembrei dos saves que quando você criava save lá no Memory Card Play 2, essas coisas, você tinha que colocar um nome, né? Dar um nome pro save. E aí pra diferenciar o meu save contra dos meus irmãos, dos carinha que ia jogar lá em casa, aí eu colocava André Big Boss. Ou André FF8. E aí eu lembrei disso, foi assim que eu criei a Gamer Tag, desse jeito. Coloquei assim. Vai que a Sony te dá um ban lá. Esse caldo espírito é foda.
Carga entregue.
Você teve uma semana de descanso, hein, Caldespira? Próxima live de Sea of Thieves, eu quero choradeira de sono, hein? Você descansou uma semana.
Recarregando! Cobertura!
Não, pô. Ó o Alexandre aí. Põe um sonífero lá no café da mãe que ela dorme lá até. Marlon, e aí, beleza? que será que teremos hoje no Xbox, hein? Agora tô curioso, hein? Tomara que não seja essa enrolação que você foi na Sony, hein? Mostra lá uns joguinhos, umas novidades. Sei lá, poderia mostrar a Dash logo do Xbox Series X ali, mostrando como que é. Tomara que não fique também só mostrando xCloud ali. Beleza, beleza. Mas é pra ficar até 2h30 jogando, não é pra tipo chegar meia-noite, 11 horas e já ficar em marcha lenta, não. Chega meia-noite e já fica em marcha lenta, pô. Vai 300 vezes no banheiro, tá away, parado. Manda lá na ilha buscar minhoca pra pescar, o cara demora 3 horas. Olha o gringo aqui. E ainda assim continuamos somente com a logo, porque não mostrou nada mesmo do PlayStation. E é verdade mesmo, não tem mais nada. Só mostrou os specs ali e não mostrou mais nada. Só tem a logo do PlayStation 5. Não mostrou o console, não mostrou nada. Barquinho de mantimento que rapaz. Tava no final da live, vai pegar mantimento. Pois é, o da Iniciative também tô bem curioso, e da Playground também. Quero ver o Fable lá, se for Fable também, né? Putz. Vamos ver, né, como é que vai ser o negócio aí. Mas acho que esses daí não vão mostrar não, é só na E3 lá. Eu acho que hoje não deve ter nada de revelação de jogos novos, não. Eu acho no máximo que talvez possa acontecer. Parece que começou. Na onde que tá sendo transmitido? Será que é só no Mixer? Falaram que é 4h30, ainda tem tempo ainda. Assim, acho que vai começar o negócio, mas é tipo, do Xbox mesmo é só 4 e pouco. Mas pra mim não tem nada aqui não. Nem no Mixer, nem no YouTube tô vendo nada aqui não. Eu acho que se no máximo tiver uma coisa hoje pra surpreender mesmo, vai ser... sei lá, talvez anúncio daquele estúdio que o cara meio que vazou lá. É, aqui no YouTube não tem nada também não. No Mixer tô olhando aqui, no canal do Xbox não tem não. Não, onde que será que é? Deixa eu ver aqui. Ah, Game Está, tá. Acho que agora eu achei aqui. Games Tech Live. Vou tentar de novo colocar o bagulho aí na tela, enquanto não começa de verdade. Deixa eu ver aqui se eu consigo. Não, da higiene não dá não, aí dá. Aí que eu tomo flag mesmo, pô. Deixa eu ver se vai funcionar aqui, calma aí. Ah, acho que vai funcionar. Dá pra ouvir o cara falando aí ou não? Página da web. Tá sem áudio de novo, né? Mano, não sai esse áudio, cara. Deixa eu ver aqui. Redirecionar o áudio para o OBS. Será que assim vai? Deixa eu ver se vai. Só se for assim. Acho que agora tá. Me responda aí se tá o áudio agora. Tá com áudio agora? Não? Sério? Pra mim tá aparecendo aqui, mano. Ué, que estranho, mano. Cacete, mano. Que merda. Verdade, esquece. Nossa, que estranho, velho. Só se eu colocar o áudio, sei lá, do meu PC aqui, mas eu não sei como é que eu faço isso. Tava viciado no Sudoku lá. Ai, ai. Deixa eu ver aqui, saída. O que é isso aqui? Calma aí que eu estou tentando, galera. Não é isso que eu quero.
Bomba de veneno colocada.
Peraí. Apenas monitorar saída.
Like in that space.
I mean, I think it's a big play field with a lot of room for everybody, obviously, and I love gigantic AAA games. But I do think the indie space is where you can try a new interesting idea. You can try something that you always wanted to try, or like with this, something that I just wanted to make for years. you find some like-minded people who maybe think, yeah, that's a cool idea, let's go make that. And I think without taking, crazy amounts of risk, like Bartlow when he destroyed everybody, you can try that. You can try things that are maybe a little different, a little more daring, a little more, strange, if you will. And I do think that is where a lot of the great things do bubble up into tomorrow's AAA games. I think where this test lab where everyone can just sort of throw together some stuff and iterate quickly and be bold and be daring with their ideas is one thing you can do, I think, very effectively with a small team, especially thanks to the sorts of tools and technology that are available now. I think anybody can basically make a game who really wants to.
Yeah, I guess let's talk about those tools. Talking about independent game development.
Eu vou diminuir pouquinho a tela aqui. Enquanto tá nesse blá blá blá, quando tiver coisa relevante eu aumento. Tá bom o volume agora ou quer que abaixe mais aí? Eu abaixei um pouco. Espera que eu vou baixar mais então.
We haven't used a lot of GameStack yet. That's the new and coming thing, and our game's not
Vamos falando aí, vamos dando feedback aí. Tá baixo, tá alto, tá ruim, tá bom.
Incorporating, into our development process. I mean, we have a lot of our content done, but the question about what I would advise someone who wants to do an ID game is, it's part of it's the clarity of what you want to do. Like if you know what you want to do, you know who it's for, and you kind of have this idea that you want to again try something out that you think would be really
tá
cool
bom agora
dos
caras falando ou tá alto demais ainda?
To work with you. Really all you need
Respondo aí.
To set up what amounts
melhor,
to
beleza. Então vou deixar assim então. Eu abaixei só um pouquinho. Bom, agora deixa eu prestar atenção no que eles estão falando para ver se tem alguma coisa boa, que eu não escutei nada até agora.
There's an online application for ID. Anybody who lines up the right resources and signs up for that has a shot. Can make a game. It can be on all these amazing consoles, all over the world. So it's I guess to me it's more about just kind of like having that vision, being able to drive forward with it, and being able to share sort of like that essential DNA of what it is you are doing with the people you're working with.
Deixa eu ver na live mesmo aqui, deixa eu escutar pela live, tá?
So I'm kind of to dovetail off that question. What have been some of your key learnings? Again, everyone watching, or a lot of people watching this, may be trying to develop a game for the first time.
Na live tá de boa.
What are some other key learnings that you would share with them that really get them started?
I think again, it starts with that thing I was calling the DNA, the basic idea. I think that's sort of like the razor you use when you're making choices, because I've worked on big budget games, and when you can go down various rabbit holes, you can end up spending a lot of time on like really complex processes, or if you I guess what I'm saying is know your scope and costs. Know what it is you're trying to do. Don't try to go too far beyond that. I mean,
agora sim, descobri como é que faz o negócio.
Put together things and get that.
Por que eu fico saindo da partida? Porque eu tô saindo farmando XP. Fazendo esquema aqui de ganhar XP easy.
It's also very easy to overscope. It's easy to be overly ambitious.
Aí tem que ficar fazendo essa doidura aqui.
If you just again keep your eye on what that vision you have for that end, experience for your players.
Para quê? Para ganhar conquista, para inflar a gamer tag, né? Para inflar a gamer tag, para ficar zoando um amiguinho depois e falar lá, eu tenho mais gamer score que você.
So I guess that's my main advice is to just watch your step. Design smart, design carefully.
Yeah, that focus and that scope is super important. Again, especially when you have a small team. Perhaps you're kind of forced to do that in some ways. Now, I would love, your experience. You have a very unique experience and background in the gaming industry, and maybe that's sort of also inspirational. Can you tell us a little bit about where you are as far as independent game development and just Xbox, anything that you can share with
Acho que vai ser só lá para as 4h30 mesmo que vai ser o que interessa pra gente, porque vai ficar nessa enrolação também aí até. É meio que um evento mais para desenvolvedor, esses que eles estão fazendo agora. Por isso que eu não estou esperando muita coisa, não. Ah, então, pior que você tá. Zero platina, zero jogo 100%, aí é jornalista.
Do what I do, and that is to really understand, the processes of making a game, what a team goes through, the psychology of what we do. I think it's very easy to get up onto a pulpit and make speeches like I'm doing right now, but it's I see that as kind of I will never stop wanting to make things and be able to follow maybe a vision for an idea. And again, this is such a tremendous outlet. It's such a tremendous platform for doing just that.
Yeah, and you say it's a speech, but I think a lot of people want to hear from that. They want the opportunity. Yeah, they want the opportunity. Yeah, exactly. They want the opportunity to kind of learn from people who've been doing it for quite some time and whose main job it is. And so, just to circle it back to Bartlow's Dread Machine, where can people learn more about the game and where can they find it?
Como é que é? Caramba, eu não quero nem saber quem são seus inimigos, então, pô. Se o cara era seu amigo e fez isso, imagina quem era seu inimigo.
So there are links there to, there's the trailer, there's screenshots, and some stuff you can look at there. Also links to the Tribe Toy side. They're really talented developers, super passionate about what they are doing. And yeah, that'd be the main place to go.
Ah, por isso que tem que ver bem com quem compartilha contas, essas coisas, cara. Não dá pra ser qualquer um, não. Tem que ser uma pessoa que você conhece mesmo.
And also like staying in scope, staying focused. Clayton, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks. Really appreciate it. Really awesome being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And now for an example of what GameStack can do for indie titles to two people who play them. Kelly and Ricari, tell me what you got.
Malik, I just got to say, first of all, what an outro you threw right there. Way to make people feel welcome. Way to make us feel welcome too. And yes, we do play our indie games.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think I've played through Stardew Valley like 4 or 5 times now. Something for every kind of game and every development goal.
And remember, we're in Discord talking all things tech with our tech experts right now.
Speaking of goals, next-gen console gaming has been a goal for many of us in the last few months, and many more going forward.
All right, this is it. This is the moment I've been waiting for to speak about the future of console gaming. Let's send it over to Brian with more from Project xCloud and Xbox Series X.
Opa lá, vem falar de xCloud agora. Agora pode ser, talvez seja interessante. Vamos ver. É, aí é complicado mesmo. Aí, pô. O cara foi traíra mesmo. O Master Chief.
Awesome, thank
Cacete.
you. I'll take it from here. Alright, thanks Kelly, thanks for covering. I have the pleasure of moderating this incredible panel today. So let's introduce our players to you. First up, we have Catherine Gluckstein, who's the GM of Project xCloud, responsible for product and
Por falar em frigobar, você viu que a Microsoft lá oficial, ela tweetou zoando, né? Ela tirou a foto de um frigobar grandão e o Series X, comparando o tamanho.
Rounding things out is going to be Chris Novak, partner and head of Xbox Design Studio. Everyone, welcome. Cool. Can we hear everybody? Are you guys on the phone? We hear us a little say hello.
We're here.
Thanks for having us. Hey, Brian.
Hi, everybody. Okay, so got a couple ground rules today. Again, everybody, we're doing this live, so this is going to be a lot of fun. But as ground rules, just because we have everybody that is going to be on picture but no video, we're going to do a little bit of listening actions here. So I'm going to be asking questions, and I'm going to try and ask a question directly to a person. So when you guys get that, just give a second pause so we can make sure that we're not speaking over each other, but we're going to do the best we can. So, with that, before we get into the meat of the topics, I want to give some context to
Melhor,
each
bem
of you
melhor.
who were chosen to be with us today. Catherine, let's start with you. Before xCloud, you served as Phil Spencer's staff, bringing with you more than 20 years of product experience. How has that prepared you to step into this leadership role?
So firstly, Brian, I just want to say I wish I could be there in person, but as you know, all our
Tamanho da
worlds
barba do
have been
cara, né,
turned
mano? Tá
upside down
louco.
by this crazy virus. And in fact, I've got 2 kids in another room doing homeschooling and my husband on meetings elsewhere. So I'm just fingers crossed my internet's going to stand up. But absolutely, what prepared me for this role? So, you know, really I've spent the last 20 years building a career that has sort of harnessed technology to evolve the distribution, consumption, and business models for content. And then about 3 years ago, as you rightly said, I joined Xbox as Phil Spencer's chief of staff. And I have to say, that was an incredible experience. I mean, Phil, as we know, is one of gaming's greats. He might blush if I say that. But but you know, to have the experience to learn about gaming, you know, alongside him just gave me, you know, incredible insight into where this business is going. And as you know, Brian, we spent a lot of time looking to evolve the Xbox strategy during that period. It was where we stated our goal was to reach the 2 billion gamers on the planet. And we defined our framework as the 3 Ps: content, community, and cloud. And, you know, as you can see, I'm lucky enough now to get to execute this strategy with an amazing team, you know, really get to execute on that 3rd C, the cloud strategy. So couldn't feel luckier.
Awesome. Thank you, Catherine. Jason, let's go to you. You were part of the core team on Xbox Series X, and before that, you were with the Xbox Advanced Technology Group and Xbox Game Studios. Now, you've had a front row seat to much of the evolution happening in the industry. How has that influenced the way that you lead teams around Xbox Series X?
Thanks, Brian.
Agora
Really,
barbudão.
this is one of the most exciting times in my long history in the game industry, with the introduction of like new disruptive technologies, innovative game design, and just totally new ways to engage with players. So I think first and foremost, it's really about listening to our customers. And when I say customers, I mean both gamers and developers. The voice of the development community is absolutely critical to everything that we do here at Team Xbox, and it really kind of shapes where we take the technology and the platforms that we deliver. And as a platform builder and designer, our role is really to empower developers to deliver on their creative visions, but by providing them with the best hardware, software, and development tools. And we really want the technology to fade away for both developers and players, so that gamers have the most amazing and immersive experience on whatever device they choose to play on.
That's awesome. Rachel, let's go over to you. You have experience working with the governor of South Carolina, and you also led an indie video game studio. How has your background given you maybe a unique perspective as the product lead for Xbox Series X?
Hey, Brian, thanks for that. Yeah, so I have a really unique background, and first I think I would just like to acknowledge I feel very, very fortunate for the experiences that I've had.
Até agora tá
both in
parecendo
my
evento da
education
Sony.
and in my professional
Só
roles.
abobrinha.
The red thread kind of across all those is that I've had the honor to work with really great people and do really great things. When I worked with the indie game studio, when we formed that, it was really about building amazing experiences for gamers, and really digging deep to understand what would delight them and what experiences they would love. It was also about getting sold on the value of entrepreneurial spirit and agility, and those skills I bring with me. When I worked with the governor, that was really humbling. It was an awesome experience. We were on a personal mission, both of us, to increase job opportunities, to help a really difficult public education system in our beloved home state. And so my current role now, at Microsoft, it's our mission to strive to empower every person and every organization on the planet. And I think we're really fortunate to be in a position to help do that. And so for me, when I think about product, I'm grateful for my experiences, but really, I'm most grateful for all of my team's experiences, because I think we all have very individual, unique experiences that shape the products we build. These products are a reflection of the team that built them, and we believe that in our core.
That's good, that's good. Now, Chris, let's finish with you real quick. You are a game designer by trade with over 25 years experience in the industry. Now, you've shipped titles like Forza Motorsport, Project Gotham Racing, Crackdown, I could go on. For those unfamiliar with the role
pelo menos
of
tá com coisinha na
design
mão,
and
né?
product development,
O outro tava olhando fixamente lá pra longe, lá. Estranho pra caralho.
Sure, happy to. Really, there's two primary roles. One is for the customer, and that is purely to help galvanize a team to deliver something which is unexpectedly fun. And I use those words, unexpectedly fun, very purposely, because frankly, when you're in an entertainment industry, you're making a game or you're playing that game, it's very challenging to, beat the expectation that somebody has when they expect it to be fun. And so you're really trying to do something that delivers that little bit of extra unexpected fun, where it makes people talk and they talk about your game and they're like, hey, wait, they did what? Oh, I wouldn't have expected they do that. I needed to try that out. And it's really that last little bit of getting them something which they didn't expect, right? Like if you're gonna go drive a Ferrari, you're gonna expect to be fast, but you're not gonna expect the guy next to you to hit the button, bust out the booster rockets on it, and that's gonna be the thing that you remember because you weren't expecting it, right? You're expecting it to be great, you're expecting it to be fast.
Segundo, falta umas coisinhas, mas eu já fiz as online do Xbox. A do Play ficou, infelizmente, bugou uma lá.
That journey, that player on a journey, and make them feel something. And the second role for design, really amongst the team, it's really regarded as the discipline that helps tie everything together into something pure, something very focused. Because there are times when, hey, there might be business questions at hand, or tech questions, or just design questions themselves, and designers are really the ones pinned to, hey, here's where this can go, here's that vision, here's if this thing didn't go right, here's how we can pivot and still deliver an excellent customer experience. And in the end, whether you're an audio designer or game designer, combat designer, UX designer, there's a bunch of different flavors. Your job is to deliver something focused, pure, and that takes the player on a journey and makes them feel something.
That's good. I feel like whenever I see design, we have this conversation all the time in the office, Chris, it's like good products start with good design.
Eu achei da hora como que é tudo encaixadinho certinho, né, nas peças do Xbox Series X, cara.
Let's get started. Let's get at this.
Mano,
I know y'all have been waiting for this.
O negócio é tudo
Jason, let's kick off with you.
Feito na medida ali.
News this week on Xbox Series X. Can you tell us how the technical advances allow developers to unlock new and innovative gaming experiences?
Absolutely. This has been a really exciting week for the team. The team's been working really hard on Xbox Series X since 2016, and to finally be able to actually share some of the details of what we've been working on has definitely been a highlight for all of us. And as you mentioned on Monday, we shared many of the details of our next generation console. And it's really about enabling transformative gaming experiences that we've never seen in the living room. In the early days of the planning process, the design of the Xbox Series X was really directly influenced by three key principles. Like I mentioned before, first and foremost is developer and gamer feedback. When I was leading the Xbox Advanced Technology Group, the team worked closely with developers all across the world, making everything from the industry's best blockbusters to competitive esports titles to extremely innovative ideas in game design coming from some of the industry's best independent creators. And we really listened, learned, and helped them overcome the technology barriers that were really limiting their aspirations for the games that they were creating.
Eu quero que vocês mostrem aí o jogo. Quero que vocês fiquem falando. Quero que você mostre, ó. Ray Trace vai fazer isso aqui, ó, nesse jogo, ó. Tá vendo? Não mostrar no Minecraft só. Mostra o Gears lá.
So we challenge ourselves to not only build a system that could
Mostra a gameplay do Hellblade 2.
deliver high-quality 4K game experiences at 60 frames a second, but we challenge ourselves to go even further and to deliver frame rates up to 120 frames a second, frame rates that historically you never thought were possible in the living room. You know, so it was really about kind of pushing those boundaries and really understanding what developers and gamers were really looking for in a next generation console. And then the second one is just really looking at the innovations in technology with an eye towards the future. You know, everything from advancements in CPU performance, more efficient usage of GPU, next generation graphics innovation and capabilities, things like hardware accelerated ray tracing, or variable rate shading, or mesh shaders. It's really about giving developers new kinds of tools to really build those rich, dynamic worlds that players like to spend time in. And another great example of that is with the current generation, we're basically at the upper bounds of what's possible with a traditional rotational drive technology. And it was really constraining the game design that developers were having, where they'd have to arbitrarily funnel players through different tunnels or pathways, or, you know, you'd have a fast travel system where it'd take a super long time to teleport from one side of the map to another. So, you know, with these insights, it was very clear that we would need to invest in things like SSD level I/O performance, or a revolutionary new architecture to make it easier for game developers and game engines to stream assets in real time from the storage solution into the memory of the CPU and the GPU, so that you can get that real, rich, high-fidelity, dynamic living world that players expect.
Ah, eu falei que ia ser minha enrolação aqui também. Aqui não vai ser revelação de coisa muito grande. Se tiver algo assim, é surpresa demais, mas eu acho que vai ser mais enrolação mesmo. Eu pelo menos não estou esperando nada de bombástico, né?
So as we looked into the future with new innovations like Project xCloud and game streaming, we knew we had an opportunity to make key decisions in the design of the system that could open up brand new possibilities for developers. And like one thing that we learned very early on as we started working closely with the Azure team is some of the same challenges that we have in delivering a high-performance game console in your living room are the same kinds of challenges that we have in the data center. Things such as delivering high performance for gaming workloads while minimizing power consumption and thermal management. And having that vision of a future really helped shape how we designed our custom SoC that's powering the Xbox Series X and the overall system architecture, so that we could make sure that we're providing a common and consistent hardware, software, and development platform that makes it easier for developers to bring the games that they're developing today on console and PC into the cloud in the future. And many of the technologies that we're innovating and incubating with the Xbox Series X are being brought to PC and brought to Project xCloud. And it's because we designed the system with the future in mind from the very outside of the program.
Wow. Yeah, Jason, this is blowing my mind. Like, having worked on the team for a while and kind of getting a chance to see what this thing looks like in person is kind of like shocking me right now. This is actually the first time I've actually kind of, I can't touch it. My fingerprints will get on it. It's one of those things like, this is amazing. I geek out about this all the time, and you said something that has really just like blown my mind a bit, which is like, this is like one of the first times we've built a console thinking about where the next generation, the next iteration, the next paradigm shift in game development is really going. And you talk about the cloud. Can you touch a bit on the role that the cloud plays as you're thinking about the development of Xbox Series X?
Sure. So, there's certain scenarios, this is a custom SoC, this is a custom architecture that we've designed from the ground up to make sure that we're delivering that high fidelity gaming experience. But as you think about things like the cloud and what we're doing with Project X Cloud, there's certain things that, for example, virtualizing the display controller, as an example. If we're just designing the system,
Eles começaram o desenvolvimento em 2016, cara, antes do lançamento do X. Trabalharam com os dois ali juntos, praticamente.
Design decision you wouldn't really think about, but you only really get one chance to make those decisions, and it's when you're designing the chip, when you're designing the overall system architecture. So as we think about how developers are going to take their games and move them into the cloud, or how they're going to be developing games in the cloud in the future, we knew we needed to invest in certain key technological investments from day one to make sure that we're providing a clear path for developers, so that developers don't actually have to go and significantly alter their game or rewrite their game from scratch. We want to provide kind of a path as game streaming becomes much more prevalent and accessible. And ultimately, it's really about empowering developers to reach customers all across the world. Whether they choose to own a console, they choose to play on a PC, or maybe streaming is going to be their primary experience. We want to provide that easy path for developers.
There's something you said, I have one more follow-up question on this, and this is something that a lot of teams, a lot of people that may be watching this maybe just don't know, is the lead time that it takes in order to put together a console. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you mentioned making technology decisions?
Aquilo ali acho que não é um LED, aquele negócio verde, é alguma coisa verde ali dentro mesmo.
Let's just put this thing in there. There's a whole process to that thinking. Can you elaborate just a little bit on just some of the work that it takes to kind of think through where this is going to be in time?
Sure. We really started the development of the Xbox Series X in 2016, before we'd even released the Xbox One X. So to your point on lead times, it's multiple years of investigation, of prototyping, of trying to figure out where the technology roadmap's going, understanding from developers what their game design aspirations are. There's entire new genres of games or new kinds of game experiences that have come up in the last 2 to 3 years. So a lot of it is really kind of that partnership with our development partners, both at Xbox Game Studios as well as the best creators all across the industry. But it's also making sure that we have a clear vision of where do we see gaming going as Team Xbox. And once again, our goal is to get, Catherine mentioned earlier, really reaching out to those 2 billion gamers all across the world. So it's how do we make it as easy as possible, and what are the investments that we need to be making so that
Nintendo,
customers all across the world can have the same great gaming experience
Nintendo tá mostrando mais caixa de papelão lá.
On consoles know and love today, and do it in such a way that makes it easy for developers.
That's good. I think it's a perfect segue as well. Let's dig into the next bit of this. We want to talk a little bit about Project X Cloud. And Catherine, I'm going to bring this next question to you. Would you mind talking us through the approach of Microsoft bringing Project X Cloud to market? And before you jump in, I'm going to, everybody follow me on the camera. This is going to be fun. We're doing this in real time. I have a server blade over here from Project X Cloud that I also was so excited when I heard this was going to be here. This is an actual Project X Cloud server blade that is in the footprints of Azure at the global data center level, and it is so cool to take a look at the guts of this thing, because wow, the tech that went into this, the making of this is unbelievably impressive. Catherine, back to the question. Walk us through Microsoft's approach in bringing xCloud to market.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Brian, when you just took off there, I had no idea where you were going. I was just like, well, where's he going now? But you're seeing our blade, and I mean, it is so cool. And it is, you know, Rachel said it earlier, our products are testament to the amazing teams that build them. And, you know, looking at this, I just couldn't be more proud. So going back to what we believe the journey is, we think we are at the very beginning of a multi-year journey with streaming. You know, there is much more we don't know about streaming than we do know right now. And that's exactly why we came to market with our preview plan, where you remember, and it seems like an age ago now, but we started last October with just 4 games in preview. And since then, we've expanded countries. We have more than 90 games. We've gone just from Android. We have an iOS test flight running. And as we talked about before, we're also going to be bringing this to Windows 10 PCs. This really is about a journey of us learning together with the developer community, and to see the passion with which developers have leaned into this with us and the learnings that we're doing together has just been mind-blowing. It just makes me so proud to be a part of this team.
That's awesome. And you mentioned just a moment ago the response from some of the game development community. Can you share a little bit about, like, how has it been working with game developers? What have they been saying and building for Project xCloud?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know what? I'm reminded actually back to a story. We spent a lot of time, obviously, talking with developers before we launched into preview. And every time we would go to a meeting with a developer, we would take their game running on a mobile phone and hand it to them to play. And at that point, there was always silence in the room, and we kind of would look around the room and think, well, what's going on? And then the partner would start sort of looking around the room and, you know, talking to their teams and saying, well, who worked on this? And it was very clear that no one had worked on it, because actually when you build for Xbox, you build for xCloud. And what we have done is just made the game work automatically for them. Really, it got it up and running pretty much in a matter of minutes. And that first thing we call lift and shift. Taking a game that you've built for Xbox and putting it in the cloud literally blew the developers away. So that's been absolutely fascinating. And then we've just learned, you know, so much about how gamers are using streaming. And basically, you know, we're seeing gamers play more across the board, which has been fascinating for developers. You know, they're not just playing more on xCloud, they're also playing more on Xbox and PC. And specifically, we're learning about different sort of genre types and what gamers who stream their games are enjoying perhaps more than others. So it really is a journey of us learning together. But we also are aware that there are some developers who want to be doing more to optimize their games for the cloud. And in those circumstances,
já tá quase na hora aí das 4h30 aí do bagulho aí. Tá só no papo furado aí.
To support native interaction, or some of the APIs that we're developing that provide device.
Acho que não vai mostrar porra nenhuma aí.
So the developers can optimize for the much smaller screen size.
Nem se tiver estúdio novo, acho que não vai mostrar aí.
Literally this symbiotic journey that we're on with our developers to really, begin to optimize this experience. You know, when I talk to my team, I really talk about, you know, the speed of our learning cycles. Whenever you're bringing a new technology to market, it's all about learning. And the faster we learn, the better we're going to optimize this product. So that's absolutely the journey that we're on.
Oh, so good. I always remember when I'm sitting in rooms with you, like one of the things you say is we always have to keep learning. We always have to keep improving. I feel like that's really an ethos that you've helped bring that along with the team, which is just so good. Chris, let's pivot over to you. As a service and platform provider, what do you think Microsoft's role is in helping game developers navigate new technologies like Xbox Series X and Project xCloud?
Frankly, if it's 2 words, it's eliminating friction, right? I mean, the game game teams have a vision for what they want to build, and really as a publisher, your job is to let them just execute on that and multiply the effort against it. And there are things that sometimes are tricky to manage when you're a studio, right? Large or small. Sometimes business questions come up, and you want to sell things in a different way, and the publisher does or doesn't support that. And so it's how do you push that and work with the publisher to get them to offer things in a different way. Sometimes it's technology. Hey, there's this new tech, we don't quite know what to do with it, or we have something we want you to push it even farther. I mean, when I think about both xCloud and Series X, right, more so than the GPU, as a game designer, the game designs that you can build because you might have a much more powerful CPU is actually super interesting, because that's, for a while now we've been able to make graphics and worlds that look very real, but the challenge, frankly, from a game loop, from a game dynamics perspective, is how do you make those worlds act real, right? Physics and AI and doing all of that math actually requires a CPU that's pretty strong. And so when you think about kind of the typical trade-offs that you've had in games in the past, where, hey, I can have, a small number of enemies that are really, really smart, or a large number of enemies that are not so smart, grunts. That's always been a trade-off that's limited what you can do in the games. And from the the fastest thing to make a developer laugh is, as a designer, you go into a room and you tell them that you want to build a scene where you're fighting in water, and you have a bunch of these enemies, and everything reacts dynamically with things getting wet, right? They just look at you and they're like, yeah, we can't do the physics for that. Like, you need a CPU with some power to do that. And so moving forward on something like Series X in the cloud, and understanding, hey, this isn't just going to be something that where it's going to look much better, it's going to make that world feel and sound much more real. Now we're going to allow you to do much better things with physics, like simulations. Like, those are the things that are going to allow games to take a giant step forward, and that's really what I'm excited to do. And as a publisher, I mean, there's certainly the bread and butter work we do, helping people understand the research that we've done into different regions, if they want to know a customer that they're not familiar with in a different part of the globe, understand what their data pipeline and bandwidth is like in that region, understand where we think the technology is going, understand the shell experiences that we're going to build that are basically the stage for their title, right? Like, they're building this pearl, and we're this oyster to showcase that pearl. And really the publisher's job is how do you eliminate friction so that the game teams can just run at what they're really good at, and we can help support them with things that they shouldn't have to care about, right? They shouldn't have to care about building tools to allow them to look at how to optimize their engine and what's going on in picks, right? That shouldn't be their job. They shouldn't have to worry about building giant data centers across the planet, right? That should be our job. We can go do that. They should focus on the game, what's going to make it great. And so, simply put, hey, how do we just make it easier for them and allow them to turn things up?
That's good. And you mentioned, as you're talking about this idea of this awareness. And I think it's really interesting to talk about what it means to have your game be aware. And I hear you guys talk about this idea of this streaming aware point of view. Maybe Jason, can you maybe elaborate a little bit on what does it mean to be streaming aware, building a game streaming aware?
Yeah, so like Catherine was talking about, today with Project xCloud, we're kind of doing what we call lift and shift, which is taking existing games that were already designed and built for Xbox and being able to run.
And we know that developers are continually pushing boundaries, trying to reach more gamers around the world who are playing on more devices and more platforms. And so the Xbox Series X was really built for this evolving landscape of gamers playing on multiple devices. But also this thing that we're seeing happening with technology converging across console, PC, and cloud. We want both gamers and developers to feel unconstrained in this next generation of gaming.
O que você vai falar
And
desse
so
Play
we are
5 vai
working
chegar
with
em casa, né,
developers
mano?
to
Tá louco.
unlock the potential for what we can develop and deliver to gamers.
Que fiasco que foi.
And so more specifically from a developer perspective, Jason touched on some of this in his previous comments. You know, we're
Eu
really
esperando
aiming
uma
to
reta,
build
alguma coisa da hora ali, pô.
hardware that unleashes their creative vision. We're empowering them to
Deu
create how they
sono.
want because they know what's best for them. And we're providing the tools they need for now and for the future. So this enables them to get their games to more gamers around the world, to more Xbox gamers around the world, whether they're playing on Series X.
E esse daqui também tá bem enrolado, hein? Tá cheio de linguiça também. Pô, mostra aí, vai ficar só falando dessa porra aí.
Sums it up, you know, the question you ask about, you know, either or. You know, we believe that the best
Vai ficar
experience
se
for gamers and
puxação de
developers
saco aí.
is the experience that's designed from day one, so it's better together. So I think you could kind of say our philosophy is an and philosophy. It's not an or philosophy. You know, we will lead with the flagship experience on our next-gen console, and we will extend that to players who want to play on xCloud.
You said something that's super important, which
O
is
código
this
espírito
idea
tá
of
entregado
better
com a luz
together.
verde lá dentro lá.
I think that is
É
like a
alienígena.
theme within just Microsoft.
É coisa de outro mundo que é o
Games
espírito.
Stack.
Tá vendo que não tem nem
This
cabo ali
idea
de
that it's not
energia?
an or statement, but it's an and statement, letting game developers really
É
bring
bruxaria.
the tools that they're familiar with and then be able to work with the stuff they love from Microsoft. So I really like that. I'm curious, Catherine, you know, this idea of better together, working on Project xCloud and Xbox Series X, you know, from a cloud perspective, what are your thoughts on this better together story?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm so pleased you called on me, Brian, because I was dying to add one thing to what Rachel said, which was so perfect. It's really about this idea of choice. Playing your games wherever you choose to play them. And we just had such a great story come in the other week from one of our preview testers. He's actually in the armed forces and he's currently deployed. And he couldn't take his Xbox with him. But he gets to play Destiny 2 through the xCloud preview. And I just think that is so absolutely perfect. And, you know, and really speaks to reaching people wherever they are. And then I also want to go sort of one point further with that, because earlier about reaching the 2 billion gamers. That demands, you know, both looking to the Xbox world.
Tem que comprar e abrir já no primeiro dia pra ver que aquela luz verde lá. Já abre já no primeiro dia.
And you know, as you know, within preview, one of the markets we'll be coming to is India, where India is a huge gaming nation today. I think, in fact, I read somewhere that it's, you know, got the 5th most highly engaged gamer population. However, it's a market that we at Xbox don't know so well. So that is so fascinating as we work with developers to say, how can we bring these great games that we're building to new markets and new opportunities? And I really think that fits with the better together, that we take what we have and we bring it to new places,
Agora encaixa, velho.
new endpoints. So it just couldn't be a more exciting time.
Na verdade tá tudo espalhado aqui, vocês não tem ideia, velho, não tem mais espaço.
And it's like there's this whole kind of world where it's all coming together. And
tá tudo
Chris,
espalhado
I
aqui,
velho.
velho.
Ask the same question to you is like, you know, when you think about it from the design perspective, building better together is not simple anymore just because you're having to deal with so many different endpoints and so many different customers and so many different games. Talk to a little bit about like what is the role of design in this idea of thinking about multiple products, multiple platforms, multiple networks?
Well, to Catherine and Rachel's point around choice, when you look at it from the player's perspective, players love games. What would they choose to do if you handed them a time travel device, right? Which is effectively what you do when you give somebody a cellular phone, right? Or something that they can take with them. Because they can't always sit in front of their PC or their laptop or their console to play the game that they so desperately want to play, right? People get tattoos of their favorite games, right? Like this is what they want to do far all else. And when they find themselves, you know, physically standing in a line somewhere for 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 hours, however long it's going to be, their mind is often on that game. And what better than
Do
have their mind
something.
on that game, but to actually give
Fica
them
nesse
that
negócio aí, eu
wormhole,
sei
give them
que
that
o
tunnel,
xCloud vai fazer isso
so that
aqui,
they can
mas
spend that 5 minutes or
mostra-me.
that 15 minutes, whatever it might be, interacting with the game they want to play. And sometimes, you know, through xCloud, it's actually playing it. Sometimes it's through things like Mixer, what they're doing to watch it. And it's really design's role to allow you, sometimes you want to play, sometimes you want to talk about that game with your friends. If you have a device
também tô achando que vai ficar só na linguiça aí. Mas pelo menos eu não esperava por aí nada nesse evento mesmo. Mas bem que poderia ser legal se mostrasse alguma coisinha, né? Foda. Mas pelo menos eu tô farmando Gears dessa vez, né? Porque o evento da Sony lá eu perdi de farmar um Gears, né, cara?
Physically, if I'm standing in that line and checked out, okay, cool. I want to play a game, I want to talk about that game. You give me a
Era pra estar chegando no prestígio 18 aqui já.
Amazing, I'm in. And so on the, you know, certainly on the developer side, you think about, well, hey, what does it mean to build something that allows you to play for, you know, a shorter amount of time, or to play continuously kind of throughout the day in small segments of time, not just for, you know, an hour or 6 hours that you're going to spend sitting in front of your console or your PC. And that's really what's amazing, right? When you talk about Better Together, it's about how do you give people the choice to participate in the thing that they love more often, and share that with more people. And certainly that was the goal that we set out to accomplish. And Better Together really just means being super attuned to letting gamers get closer to the thing that they love.
You know, I want to give a plug real quick for some content that we had that was pre-done before the show tape.
Controle a pilha.
Talk that we have up on our on-demand site. So if you go
Tá
to
escondido aí.
aka.ms/GameStackLab and you check out some of the xCloud content that's up on our YouTube page on demand, there's some fascinating stuff that's going on around the team and how they think about building for the platform. And Chris, I almost just want to ask a real quick follow-up on, which is like, with regards to design itself, what are some of the challenges when trying to design a UI or a UX that can map across multiple devices?
Oh, there's a lot. For the user, there's literally like, hey, what's the type ramp and how do you make it work in multiple locations? You know, whether the angular pixel density is different on a 10-foot screen than on something that's, you know, a foot or two in front of you, right? There's a bunch of just kind of technical details related to design. But really, when you think about what that UI is there to do, it's there to help connect you. And so the thing that might be appropriate in terms of, hey, I want to play right now, and this is how I want to interact with the game I love, is actually something different. And you might want to present more of a social view into that thing when you're looking at it on a cell phone in a short amount of time, because that's actually going to be the thing that then sets you up to play later in depth with your friends, right? It's how do you catalyze that group of people to get together. When we talk to gamers, you know, the number one thing that they say is, hey, I wish I could spend more time gaming, I just don't have enough time. And it's even harder for me to find crossover time with my friends to play together, right? That's the problem that they would love help solving. And so from a UI perspective, there's literally, how do you make this, you know, this UI look good on a different endpoint? What do I need to take into account from a design perspective? But it's also, what should I be showcasing to the user? Because it might not be that they want to play right now. It might want to be that they are catalyzing the group to get together to play later tonight. And so having your UI have an understanding of what a player has been doing across your game is really, really important, because then you can showcase that even within the game. Hey, we noticed you just finished, you know, how are you going to get on later tonight or this weekend? Those are two independent things, but they're very much both in design's wheelhouse to try and fix. And I think when you think about the ecosystem that you're attached to moving forward, design is going to be increasingly focused on how do I get players access to the right thing at the right time, at the right moment. Because certainly our job is to take care of things like the type ramp, so that when you're looking at, you know, fonts on a cell phone, when they've been streamed, that they're actually as appropriate there as they were on a 10-foot screen, right? That's just stuff we need to take care of.
Awesome. Well, let's take that conversation a little bit and let's go a little bit more into our journey with developers.
Caralho, tá difícil, não chega no 80 logo.
Given this is a year that we're shipping both the console
Esse level que não sobe.
platform, you know, I'm curious, Jason, like, what is the approach Microsoft has taken in the journey of working with game developers? And then, Catherine, we're gonna also ask you the same question, so hang tight.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because Catherine and I often do this together because we really don't talk to or engage with developers just on console or just on Project X Cloud or what we're doing with PC as an example. We really kind of talk to developers and lay out kind of our vision for the future and how we can help them deliver on the experiences that they want to provide to their players. So that means a consistent hardware platform between what's happening in the console ecosystem and what's happening in the game streaming side. It's a common software platform, common APIs. The vast majority of the code that games developers actually write.
Pô, aí você não tá jogando Gears, pô. Todos os Gears é assim.
Across the console, across PC. So as we've updated our API designs and our app model, we've really designed it so that it can work across multiple devices. And then really where we want developers to spend their time is focus on their game, making their game experience great so that players have a great experience, and then really kind of tailoring it to the unique capabilities of how they choose to deliver it. You know, simple things such as if I'm playing on a console, clearly I'm gonna, you know, prioritize or lead with controller-based input. But if the same game is being played on a PC, keyboard and mouse is critically important. Or maybe in a Project X Cloud scenario, it's more about touch controls or making it easier for a player to play there. So, you know, it's actually been one of the highlights for me over the last 3 to 4 years is as we've been developing these plans, as we've been challenging the teams internally on kind of this next generation and how we think about gaming and game development is going out and actually talking to the partners and, you know, hearing their feedback, you know, telling them here's where we see things are going, getting the feedback directly from them, and then adjusting and altering our plans. Because at the end of the day, you know, we all just want those same great gaming experiences.
Caralho, velho, quanta linguiça. Tá pior que o evento da Sony.
You know, it's really about making sure that the players all across the world can have these same great gaming experiences and doing it in such a way that we make.
Mas o jogo sempre foi assim, pô.
That's awesome. And I almost want to touch on
Eu não vejo problema nessa corrida meio doida dele.
Really interesting about working with developers, and it's this idea of like we have all of these developers.
Tá muita enrolação, né, Danilo?
Live right now and are participating in the Discord channel, following us on Twitter.
Não vai mostrar nada, eu acho.
Are not currently working with Microsoft today, and they're wanting to think about, you know, the next generation of hardware, the next generation of streaming.
A única coisa que tá valendo aqui é meu XP no Gears.
Tips to give in, like, hey, this is what we've experienced. Here's some ideas to think about that. Maybe Jason, you could start there, and then Catherine, we're gonna come over.
Vai valer meu XP no Gears e o Resident 3 demo hoje. Daqui a pouco, né?
Honestly, just keep building games the way that you always have been building.
Daqui a pouco eu vou curtir aquela delícia, passar um medo com Nemes. Já me preparar pra abril.
We partner very closely with all the industry's leading middleware providers and engine providers.
Acho que agora deu uma baixada no hype.
Whether it's hardware capabilities or some of the services that we have with Xbox Live and Azure Playfab.
Ninguém entendeu, todo mundo dormiu.
You know, and it's really about the part that's really exciting about this industry, and part of the reason why I love this industry is it's the marrying of creativity and technology, and that's the thing that the game developers all across the world, whether it's, you know, the largest studios working on a AAA blockbuster or small, you know, super creative independent creators, it's about the creativity and it's about the worlds that you want to create and the experiences that you want to deliver to players. And it's our job at Team Xbox to really remove the technology and make the technology fade away in the background. And developers are just really focused on creating that immersive experience that players want to spend time in.
That's good. Catherine, how would you say the same thing, you know, like what are your experiences and what are your thoughts on how a game developer should think about building for this next generation of hardware, building for this next generation of streaming?
Yeah, you know, I'm just going to start. Jason said it so beautifully. We often go out together and exactly what just happens. Jason just says it so beautifully that I just kind of need to go, it's what he
Vai
said.
logo, para de falar abobrinha.
But I'll try and add to that in that, you know, as we talked about before, this first step of the journey that we think we're on is what we're calling lift and shift. It's the convenience of developing for the Xbox that then magically works in the cloud. And that's a really important first step. And then Jason took us through it earlier, and I also talked to some of the touch controls and APIs we're building around sort of providing more information about whether the game is streaming. And that is the next piece, which is the cloud aware piece, which just allows us to optimize games. An important point that we probably haven't touched on so far, but is absolutely something that we're thinking about.
Não. Só ficou falando de xCloud, faz isso, faz aquilo, é bom pra isso, é bom pra aquilo. Só falando, enaltecendo, mas não mostrou nada. É mais, tá parecendo mais um evento mais pra desenvolvedor, sabe? Tipo, eles estão, vamos dizer assim, encorajando os desenvolvedores a perder o medo, sei lá, a vir pra esse lado também, de soltar o jogo no Xbox e na xCloud. Que tá fácil de desenvolver, não tem muito trabalho para eles fazer isso, praticamente trabalho nulo.
And what we're really seeing here is just creativity unleashed. You know, as Jason just said, it's our job to put the technology somewhere behind so that others can just leverage it. And our vision is for developers to be able to really leverage the true power of the
lá veio o papinho de você pode jogar o jogo em N lugar. Só não vi eu falar que eu vou jogar o Gears Tactics no Xbox, né? Cadê o Gears Tactics dia 30 no meu Xbox?
And the indie developers.
Cadê?
And our message to those developers is
games
really
everywhere.
We just want you to focus on your games and your gameplay. You know, don't worry about.
Cadê o Age of Empires falando que vai sair no Xbox? Cadê o Games Everywhere?
Cloud, we're going to take care of that for you. And so that's what I think is so exciting about this period, and that's the energy we get as we meet with developers. Is that this period is about literally this unleashing of creativity, and that can only be great for gamers.
So something that not a lot of people outside of Microsoft get a chance to hear, which is just like some of the high-level thinking, some of the philosophies behind why we're doing this. You know, Catherine, could you maybe touch on just for a second of like, where do we see this all going? We always talk about how we want to put the gamer at the center. We want to make sure that they can play the games they want on the devices they want with the people they want. Like, how does this all kind of play into the larger mission at Microsoft?
Yeah, no. Well, I don't know that I can speak to the larger mission of Microsoft, but I can certainly speak to how we view the vision as a team, which is it's all about ubiquity. Your game should be available to play on any device at any point that you choose to play it. And the community and all your saves and everything else related to the game just comes with you. I mean, think about it. We've seen this in video. You know, you can watch on Netflix, you know. I mean, I personally choose, and everybody scoffs at me, but I personally choose to watch most of my movies on my phone. But obviously, you can watch it.
Eu só acho esses negócios tão papo furado de é fácil, não sei o que lá, é fácil, é aquilo, tipo, eles ficam falando de desenvolver, trazer um jogo do coisa, mas eles não fazem com o próprio jogo, velho. Tá aí o exemplo do Gears Tactics mesmo. O Gears Tactics foi anunciado que vai sair pra console, mas não tem data ainda. Não é fácil passar o jogo pro PC pro console, então põe a data lá. Não é rapidão? Devia ela sair tudo junto, velho. Nessa parte aí é tudo papo furado. Esse negócio é fácil, não é fácil, pô. Se não tá fazendo nem no próprio jogo. Cadê o Gear Static pra mim jogar lá no dia do lançamento no Xbox? Não quero jogar nada de desgraça no PC.
One of the questions that, I think a lot of people who are not necessarily engaged with Microsoft today around Xbox Series X or Project X Cloud.
Se fosse fácil mesmo como eles estão falando, o jogo saía depois de uma semana do PC ou 2 semanas no máximo.
I don't know, when's the right time to get involved?
I think it's a lot of what Catherine and Jason
Mó papo
touched
furado
on.
isso aí.
Jump in, right? I think back to when we started our indie game studio, seems like a lifetime ago. There were 3 of us. We didn't know what we didn't know, and that actually enabled us to go do really awesome things. And for us at Xbox, we truly love hearing those ideas and seeing what developers can create, because we're not going to tell you what to do, and we shouldn't tell you what to do. You're going to tell us, right? And so if I, put myself in, my own shoes a long time ago, I won't age myself. I think it would just be jump in, right? Jump in, work with us, reach out to us, help us learn what we don't know, help us figure out that to reduce that friction, to help you be able to deliver those creative visions, especially as we think about, developing for both console and cloud. The cloud space is so exciting. I don't think we even know what that's going to look like. I always talk to the team about, watching my children play. They play together. They're on multiple devices. They're constantly going back and forth between devices. And it's where their friends are is where they go. I think when we think about the opportunity across all these platforms,
é retro só com Play 4 e só de 100 jogos só.
wants to bring to developers the ability to reach gamers where we see them going. And so, jump in.
That's good. So, let's talk real quick about some of the key learnings that we've gotten from development partners during the work that we've done to build out Xbox Series X and Project X Cloud. I always love the fact that it's great to hear what's going well. What are some challenges?
Nada de novidade, né? Só abobrinha aí. Só falatório e nada.
Jason, let's go to you.
Sure. So I think one of the things that's exciting about the transition of a generation is what you used to think of previously as constraints. Many times they go away. I mentioned the I/O system and the fact that we're at the upper bounds of what's possible with a rotational drive. Now that that's no longer a barrier, it opens up all these new possibilities. But then all of a sudden we're going to discover kind of some of the next challenges. It's like now I have almost, kind of unlimited memory and I can feed it into the system. But now all of a sudden, certain limitations we previously counted on no longer exist. And I think that challenges a lot of preconceived notions. So I think there's that. And I think the other thing too is just, there's times where there's a member of the team who she mentioned, with Xbox One X, it was like getting a playground to play with. And then with something like Xbox Series X, now the team has an entire amusement park to play with. So it can be a little bit overwhelming to actually figure out, where do I want to invest? What are these new opportunities that I have? So I think the real guidance that I'd give to the developers in the community out there is, challenge yourself, think creatively. What is the gaming experience you always wanted to build?
Ah, não sei, velho. Eu achei que é meio preguiça da Sony mesmo esse negócio da retro. Pô, só sem jogo do Play 4, cara.
The software is not enabling you to do it, or the development tools would be more useful.
A desculpa para não ter a retro do Play 3 no Play 4 era porque a arquitetura do software era diferente. Vamos dizer, beleza. Um era Nvidia lá, não sei o que lá, e agora é AMD. Beleza. Agora não tem essa desculpa. É a mesma arquitetura praticamente, só evoluiu os componentes ali. Isso aí é totalmente preguiça. Tanto é que o Xbox mesmo vai ter todos. Vai ter todos os jogos do Xbox One lá disponível.
you
E
know,
fora os que já
we
tem na
wanna
reta.
know where we've gotten it right. We wanna know
Eles
where
estão
you're
querendo alguma
struggling.
coisa, ou vender mais
And so our challenge
remaster.
then is to take
Pera aí
that
que eu vou pegar mais
feedback
água
and
pra
go
mim, rapidão,
away
galera.
and come up with really creative solutions that meets the needs of the development community so that you guys can just focus on delivering that amazing gaming experience that all of us can't wait to actually play.
So good. That's so good. All right, I think we're getting tight on time, so we're going to do what's called the lightning round. We have a set of questions we're going to ask every single person here. What are the most important things for a game developer to take away from this conversation today? Rachel, let's start with you.
Okay, I'll try to be super quick since you said we're tight on time. I think my hope is that one of the biggest takeaways from today is a feeling of excitement. You know, as we've mentioned, you know, we're in the midst of something, you know, very
O da Sony eu achei realmente que foi vagabundice mesmo, velho. Pelo menos o Play 4 com full ali, retro ali, tinha que ter, cara.
That they feel that light inside of them, that they feel that passion that we all have for gaming. I hope they're excited about the future.
Eles não fizeram nenhum esforço para trazer nem por emulação ali o restante, ou digamos, os jogos de Play 3 ou Play 2. Os caras querem revender mesmo do jogo.
That's good. That's good. Chris, let's go over to you. What is the most important thing a game developer should take away from this conversation?
You know, I was really hoping to talk about what we've learned in relation to input and skill ceiling, right? Like if you tell everybody, hey,
seria uma cartada dela boa, se ela falasse, ó, full retro com Play 4, Play 3 e Play 2, pronto. Seria uma boa cartada dela. E os jogos do Play 1 a gente vai colocando aos poucos aqui.
And as we've gone down this route and looked at what the new generation of people
Nada
growing
ainda
up, learning how to use,
só
you know,
tá,
play games on
tô que nem a cara desse barbudão aí, ó.
different than certainly how I grew up, you know, playing games on mouse
Assistindo
and
isso aí,
keyboard and
nada.
controller. People can play games on glass to a degree and a fidelity which allows a skill ceiling, which is actually pretty incredible. And it was, you know, 2 years ago when we kicked off our journey looking at that. Didn't think that was going to be the case, and now that we've looked at it both on the customer side and what the best kind of game developers on the planet are doing, people are really solving the skill problem or the skill ceiling problem. So when you think about pushing a game out, I would not be worried about thinking about a phone perhaps as the lowest common denominator. Be confident that you can actually make the game that you've built originally, you know, when you were thinking about a PC or a console. You can make that skill ceiling, you can make that thing excellent, no matter where it's being streamed to.
That's good. All right, Catherine, let's go to you. What is the most important thing that a developer can take away from this conversation today?
Yeah, absolutely. What I would say is, look, embrace the new, be open to learning, and don't constrain your thinking by frameworks that have existed in gaming previously. I think we're in a period where we are rewriting.
Vai mostrar Age of Empires aí, cadê? Que fala, vai chegar o Age of Empires para Xbox, cadê? Aí que eu quero ver.
With huge opportunity. And the only way that we can really, you know, leverage that is by being open to any amount of possibilities and just increasing those learning cycles. So be open to the new. That's my main takeaway.
That's good. And Jason, what is the most important thing a developer can take away from today's conversation?
It's kind of funny, like everybody else said it so eloquently, I don't know how much more I can add. I guess the only thing that I would add to what everybody else has really talked about is just focus on the player, focus on the gamer, just really focus on how can you delight that player. You know, the need to play is just a fundamental human condition. And that's why I think many of us work in this industry and we love this industry because at the end of the day our job
então,
is
parece que falando de Coalition, parece que eu vi uma coisa da hora, né? Acho que semana que vem vai ter revelação da Operação 3 lá, né? E tá um rumor forte aí que parece que vai vir uma DLC de campanha, por incrível que pareça, olha só. Assim, não exatamente da campanha normal da que a gente já jogou ali. Parece que vai vir uma DLC de campanha dos 3 personagens lá do modo fuga lá. Da Lani, do Mac e do Keegan.
Anyway, thanks, Brian. Well, Kelly,
E parece que tinha sido meio confirmado já pelo Matt Boot lá. O Matt Boot tinha falado que parece que, além dessas operações que vão ser atualizadas lá, não sei cada quanto tempo, ia vir uma DLC também. E aí, nessa GameStack mesmo vazou. Acho que na GameStack de ontem eles estavam mostrando alguma coisa lá. E aí teve uma parte lá que mostrou tipo uma cena que mostra o Mac, o Keegan e a Lani com o uniforme dos Gears e numa área meio diferente, meio passando como se fosse uma cutscene.
All the things Xbox Series X and xCloud, which I'm super excited about. In any event,
Se for, maravilha, velho. É só o gordo sair que começa a vir coisa boa. Mas vamos ver, né? Será?
Age of Empires. I'm so excited. That's actually my favorite game of all time. Age of Empires 2 specifically. Yeah. It's a great game. It actually caused me to kind of get into gaming and to do what I do right now.
Gotta love strategy games. Wololo, right? Isn't that the thing?
Wooloo.
Wooloo, sorry.
Yes, thank you. You were close. You knew it.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Malik, we've seen a ton already over the last 2 days. Panels with industry leaders, conversations with studio directors, and even some ID at Xbox Pros. What has been your highlight, and why has it been the panel that we just saw, actually?
Oh, you know what? I was going to say, I think I kind of gave it away, that was the most exciting. I think, again, we said it at the beginning of yesterday, a lifelong Xbox fan, and one of the things that I've always dreamed about is being at Microsoft during the launch of a new console. And the Xbox Series X coming out this year is going to be fantastic. As we heard on the last panel, let's focus on performance, speed, and of course compatibility. The idea that you're going to have thousands of games from previous Xbox generations playable on your console. The SSD, which is brand new for a new generation of consoles. First ever generation that's going to have an SSD built in to the console. And of course, just 12 teraflops of GPU power. 12 teraflops.
It's just fun saying that, right?
Exactly.
12 teraflops, of course.
Exactly. So, yeah. Kelly, what was your highlight, though?
I really like the accessibility conversations that we got to have yesterday, and like just learning about live ops and live services. It's incredible just learning kind of what GameStack is, and if there's any developers out there that
Ué, será que vazou?
joining right now.
Acho que ela vazou sem querer ali. Eu acho que vai vir um Grim Fandangos pro Xbox. Eu acho que a mulher vazou ali sem querer.
Over the last 2 days, so if you did miss, if you're just joining us right now, do not fret, everyone, because all that will be available soon, I believe. They keep saying soon, with like maybe a TM soon. Yeah.
Because you know, who's ever to say when something's gonna happen?
Eu acho que a mulher falou mais do que deveria.
Over these last 2 days is talking to you, and you said a lot. So let's check out what you said in out here. Our last panel on Next Gen Gaming features Xbox's partner director of program management, Jason Ronald. And due to technical issues brought on by our remote interviews, we had to use headshots, and someone has taken Jason and doctored a bit. A huge thanks to Enrivo for this. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so Jason, let me just say something. Wait. So Jason has one of the most glorious beards I've ever seen in my life.
It really is. Even just
Ó,
like
World Premiere aí, ó. Pelo menos uma apresentação, alguma coisa, hein?
How like half of it's gray,
Uma
half
coisa
of it's
nova.
dark. We also have that strip of gray down the dark. Like it's really cool. It's very
very deliberate and very regal. I don't know what the word would be. I don't know, but
I like regal.
It's really cool to see he's just perching over Xbox, because he is literally the guy who's put everything together, and so along with obviously a great team, and so this is really cool to see. I think we have a few more tweets, in fact. So let's see what we've got here.
I do think that was to scale, though. The picture of
Absolutely.
him, yeah. It's gonna, you know, it kind of actually it doubles as a heater for your house.
It doubles as a lot, right?
Yeah.
I think it's funny because Xbox actually tweeted out a picture on Monday of, you know, to scale an Xbox Series X console next to a fridge. So it's really funny. All right, so we have another tweet from one of our Xbox MVPs, in fact. This is Simon Darkside. It says, my favorite quote from the team. Let's look at here. This is easier to see. My favorite quote from the team at GameStack Live today is this. Something else you should know. The same team that solved the amazing feat of Xbox 360 back compat is also the team that created, Project xCloud. Awesomeness to the max. 100%. So just to give a note on that, back in E3 2015, we announced Xbox 360 backward compatibility on Xbox One, something that wasn't possible, but thanks to the amazing engineers and teams here at Xbox, we were able to make it happen. And so they are working on Project xCloud. It's going to be fantastic, lots of solutions, but I'm super excited to see all of that.
It really is exciting, just to like how gaming and game development evolves every iteration, every generation. There's something new that they add, something incredible with the teams that we have here. I'm really excited. Although, you know, we were talking about our favorite parts of today. I think actually my favorite part might be this next conversation that you're going to be having double fun.
You are a huge fan.
I am.
I'm very excited.
Between Grim Fandango, you have Psychonauts 2 that's coming out this year. And then, of course, I think Brutal Legend does not get as much love as it deserves here. But let's go back on to our tweets here.
Right.
Xbox Series X plus Project xCloud equals new chapter in game. Hey, new chapter, the evolution. That's pretty much what I was saying. Thank you. NES box fee. What? Is that a box?
Love that.
Oh, okay.
And did Ricari pay to get his tweet up here?
I think so.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I heard him talking a little bit back in the production, but he's like, you guys better put this up there. You gotta show me. Although it is really cool, the shoes with the shirt. And I do believe that we yesterday heard that some people were asking, how do we get these shirts? How do I get this jacket? Well, I don't know. That's the answer.
I was going to say, does Kelly have an answer that I don't know about?
You know, if you complain enough, maybe something will happen.
Maybe something will happen. All I got to say is, Ricari, I heard it in my ear that Ricari definitely did pay for this free promotion, in which case I would like to know how much that costs, because I would like to do that as well. Anyway.
Well, everyone, now it's time to check out one of the most creative ecosystems in the gaming industry that has helped propel a dev team to gaming glory. Here now, what drives Double Fine?
If we're making a list of priorities for the company, the word at the top of the list would be creativity. That's something we like to see in every game that we make and everything that we do, whether it's our business or, you know, I don't want to say creative finances. That probably sounds bad.
A game shouldn't just be one person's vision. There's always going to be something in like a Double Fine project that will appeal to like a very wide variety of people, because we have such a wide variety of people making that content here. That's just what makes our game special.
Double Fine games, they feel like they're made by humans. That's something that I think leads to a unique feeling in our games.
Thinking outside of the box, access to a counterculture you may not necessarily see in games. People come to Double Fine to play games that are different and unique.
I started the company because I had an idea for a game, Psychonauts. It struck me at a certain point that the game had been doing my ideas for 10 years, and there were so many creative people at the company. How do we get everybody's ideas to the forefront? So we took a break during Brutal Legend, and we split the whole company, 60 people, into 4 smaller teams. It seemed crazy at the time. Like, first of all, we're going to stop working on this game. It's not like it's ahead of schedule. We're going to make a game in 2 weeks. That sounds crazy. But out of it came these amazing little game demos. And we liked it so much we did it again in a year or so, and it was amazing.
Amnesia Fortnite, we kind of come together and pitch new ideas for these 2-week prototypes.
Another part of fostering creativity is trying new disciplines. There's a lot of people who have done 3D modeling who want to try concept art, but it doesn't really fit our game production schedule to like switch people out of their discipline all the time.
Pô, vai logo.
But during Amnesia Fortnite,
Mais
we always say
enrolação, quero
everybody can
mostra
try
o jogo,
anything
hein?
else they want to try. It just gives someone a chance to figure out, wow, that is what I really like to do. Or else, whew, I am so glad I don't do that for a living, because that was hard.
It's scary but fun at the same time, because you're learning a new skill. It helps you understand other people at the studio at a deeper level, because you're sort of being in their shoes, you know?
It can be a lot of pressure sure, but I think overall, I don't think anyone would get rid of it here. If you asked them, did you ask them? Ask them if they want to get rid of it. That's one of your questions. Should we stop it? Because I think they'd say no.
Amnesia Fortnite opens up a sphere of voices that we wouldn't normally hear from.
If you're in the studio, you can pitch. We've even had people from outside of the studio come in and pitch games before.
Everyone gets to participate, and everybody's ideas are important. But the really strong ones bubble up to the top, and you get to realize them.
Kaiju Pile Driver is like a Godzilla-inspired roguelike action game where you control a giant rubber-suited monster destroying a corporate city.
A special helmet allows you to launch his head from his body, fly it around, land into, and take control of the robot bodies of enemy forces.
A dim sum dining experience simulator called Dumb Sim.
An immersion narrative game where you play a despotic ruler guiding the future of a post-revolution republic.
Gone Astray is a 3D action-adventure game where you play a house cat exploring the outside world.
I was part of a documentary team called Two Player Productions, and in 2012 we partnered with Double Fine on a Kickstarter project to fund not just a video game that they were going to make, but a documentary that we were making about how they make that game. Tim came to us and was just like, you know, you guys can pitch ideas too if you want to, because they were taking ideas from anybody who worked here.
Come here, this way off. Yeah, this side. This side, see that? Look at that, right there, look at that. See that?
I was like, I'm gonna do it this year. I have no experience developing games at all, and it was already nerve-wracking enough to pitch to these people who we had been observing for so long. I pitched just thinking that I wasn't going to get picked.
It goes to a vote. The studio as a whole will pick one, and then Tim will usually pick one. The public has voted on him before.
The pitch that I went with was called Gods Must Be Hungry, and that is a cooking game, but it's also an action platformer, so the whole time you're doing this, there is a god moving through the town, and you're trying to get all of your stuff together and get to the arena before he does. I'll be honest, I don't really know exactly what I need, just because I have not done this before, ever. That's the one that ended up getting picked that year.
And the final one, oh, this can't be right. This breaks a lot of rules. The gods must be hungry. Also, holy cow!
The first thing that hits you, I think, is just immediate terror.
It's like 90% joy, 10% terror.
Holy crap, that sounds really intense and awesome, but extremely terrifying.
Everything's great, oh my god, this is terrible, I'm the worst creative person ever.
The people who run the projects go from terror to absolute panic. Which is worse, terror or panic? Anyway, they go back and forth in between this.
Then it's madness for 2 weeks.
We're given the list shortly before those teams are announced, and then we stand there and everyone else is on one side of the room and all the leads are over on the other side. And we just call people out one at a time, and the teams sort of clump together, and then immediately we break and start talking about what they're going to do that day.
We, as a team, figure out how much we can get done.
Every decision matters, and it's not so much that days matters, it's that hours matter, and the decisions you make within those hours all add up. So that's why it's intense.
I guess the biggest takeaway for me, I had this
Vou te ajudar. Parar de flodar com besteira. Pronto, te
have
ajudei.
immediate answers to every single question. What I learned over the process was that once
Oh,
any
de
project
geek,
starts, it is not your idea anymore. It belongs to the group, and you just have to
Te ajudar.
trust that you will arrive at
Alô,
solutions together.
como tem
And
doente.
it's not on you to be the sole decision maker for every single step of the way.
Pencil it down, deadline, everyone stops working, lock the server, can't put anything else on there. Then we'll have a gameplay festival.
While
run back to our desks and we'll all play it and we'll come back and we'll talk about it. And then next game's announced, and then we all run back to our desks and we'll have like a day-long
exclusive.
Play the games for an hour or so and talk about them all. And that's a really exciting event.
Engraçado que eu não vi nenhum até agora. O PlayStation não tem nenhum exclusivo. Da Sony não, Play 5. Não anunciou nenhum ainda.
I like his asymmetric glove. What the heck?
O Xbox já tem 2 já. Halo e o...
Everyone really
e o Hellblade.
stepped up, and it was great. People also went so above and beyond what I thought we were going to have time for that it actually turned out to be way
anunciados,
better
né,
than
oficialmente.
I could have possibly imagined.
Ai.
Maybe the last or second to last day, the guys asked me, what do you think is going to happen afterwards? I was saying that, you know, I'm a little depressed, honestly. Like, all these guys are going to go back to making video games, and I never will. And I so regret saying that now because you should really never say never. The Psychonauts team came to me, and they were saying, hey, would you like to work on this for a couple of months? And I, like, of course, said yes. I think the idea was initially that I would be on it 4 to 6 months. Now it's 2.5 years later, and I'm still working. What I know now compared to what I knew then is staggering to me.
Being uncomfortable is good. If you keep doing the same safe things, you're just not going to realize your full potential or have new stories to tell. Sometimes you need to push it or a big kick in the ass. That's what it is.
Velocidade do quê? Velocidade do quê? Só se for velocidade de fazer um evento ruim.
I was going to be like looked down upon or kicked out of the company.
That's what's unique about Double Fine.
Velocidade.
I've been at large studios where you're like a cog in a wheel because the machine is so big. But here, people are not pigeonholed into doing one thing. And that's why I think we just generate so many great ideas.
Good ideas can come from anywhere, and we should always try and not just encourage that, but nurture it as well. So it's like one thing to say, sure, the video crew can pitch ideas, get up there and tell us what you're thinking, but to then follow through on that
eu vi no Twitter,
collectively come together
os caras cortou essa parte aí. O Play 5 ele é mais rápido, é mais elegante. Ah, mano. Mano, mandar um cara desse tomar no cu não tá bom, velho.
Makes me feel like I'm year to year making the right choice and staying here.
Learning. It's all about learning. I mean, I want the company to be a celebration of creativity. Some people think, you know, creativity is like a magic thing that only creative people can do, but I believe every single person in the world is creative.
Mais elegante. Ai, ai. Nossa, o Twitter tá loucamente aqui, cara. Eu não consigo ler não, velho. Nem dá. Depois eu vou voltar tudo aqui pra ver os memes tudo aqui.
It's going well. It's going well. Thank you so much for joining me. That was a fantastic piece. We're gonna get to it in just a second. But you mentioned you don't have much in game development. Can you tell us what you do at Double Fine to start off?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm working as a level designer right now on the project. But before that, I was part of the documentary crew that's been making a series about Double Fine for the last 8 years. So it's been a bit of a shift.
8 years for documentary. That's fascinating. And again, we're going to talk about this journey because going
Mais
from someone who's
como
making
assim?
sort
Em
of
que sentido?
documenting Double Fine's journey to being a level designer, that is a fascinating jump. So let's get your
Aparência eu não ligo, eu não quero saber a aparência, mano. Eu quero que o jogo roda de boa ali, pô.
I mean, it's really wild to see. It just feels like this crazy time capsule in a way, and not just of my own time there, but just in the history of projects that have come through and gone since then, projects that they worked on. It's just been really wild. Studio, the spirit of the creativity is always
sem flodar, hein? Sem
I
flodar.
think that's just a real testament to
De tamanho, mas nem mostrou o console, pô. Como é que você tá afirmando isso?
The main word there is culture. We saw it throughout the entire piece.
Mano do céu, que kidizada querendo atenção da porra, mano.
Few days from various developers, but I think really fostering a creative culture, one where everyone feels like they have the opportunity to you know, contribute an idea. Can you give us a little bit more
Não tem
context
paciência
into what
não,
Amnesia
faz mínima falta uns kid chato desse aqui,
So it's
velho.
a 2-week game jam basically, and we all stop whatever projects we're currently working on at the studio, and then the floor is sort of opened to anyone at Double Fine to pitch an idea. And it's varied from year to year as to how the projects get
Também ela deu overclock no todo o sistema lá pra ficar com 10.2. É claro que ela deve estar com problema de refrigeração no console. Ai, ai. Eu, sinceramente, eu não tô muito... Se eu tivesse grana, eu ficaria meio assim pra comprar um Play 5 no lançamento, velho. Porque eu acho que eles forçaram muito a barra do hardware ali pra tentar dar uma upada na potência ali. Eu acho que isso não vai ser muito bem-vindo, não. Acho que ele deve dar algumas zica aí.
I think Double Fine is sort of known for a very certain type of game. One, it's a little bit wacky, a little bit complex in a way. What inspired you to create The Gods Must Be Hungry? Where did that come from?
Eu não ligo pra design de console não, mano. Eu quero pegar o negócio e colocar aqui e jogar.
My main hobby is cooking. So I spend a lot of time just watching cooking shows, cooking videos, everything from
Eu acho que também é por isso, viu? Que eles estavam enrolando até agora aí pra mostrar, cara.
The anime, so like I think all of those things have just sort of come together. And obviously some cooking games as well, like Overcooked. You know, the influence of that can't be overstated. So.
Yeah, I mean, I will say Overcooked is one of those games you shouldn't play with friends, but definitely a great game. You'll probably lose a few of the friends. But let's go back to that creative environment.
Mas foi feio o negócio ali, velho.
Again, we have a lot of developers that are watching and they want to figure out like how do they get in that creative space. What advice would you give other developers looking to jumpstart creativity specifically on their team?
Sure. I mean, I think the biggest thing.
Não mostraram nada, cara, nem o design do console, cara.
Such a different background with filmmaking. I think the best advice I can give someone is to.
Ficaram lá meia hora só falando de SSD, que isso, aquilo, outro, isso, aquilo. E o SSD vai vir menor que do Xbox Series X, do Xbox Series X. Pô, 800 gigas ali é pouco, cara. Aí vai tirar a parte do sistema também e pronto, você vai ficar com um HD de 500 ali praticamente.
I mean, I feel like every single time we've observed people doing this, because I've been around for a few AFs now, not participating, but just watching and documenting. You know, you always see people like at the end of it, even though it's an insane process.
Eu não ligo pra design não. Qualquer coisa tá bom. Contanto que o negócio rode de boa ali, não dê problema de aquecimento. Que eu não vou ter dinheiro pra comprar outro se quebrar, né? Tá ótimo. Pode vir o Xbox ali parecendo no frigobar, pode vir a Sony parecendo uma privadinha lá também, por mim tanto faz.
Let's go, you know. So I think it totally makes sense to do it every now and then. Might actually be considered part of the process to take a break.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. For any devs watching out there, I think Amnesia Fortnite is a great example, and Tim kind of alluded to it, of this idea that your game can get canceled at any second. Tim talked about
Brutal Legend 2?
But Amnesia Fortnite allowed you the flexibility to say, hey, we have a bunch of demos that we
Será
can
que
utilize, and you're able to
o cara falou demais?
I think that's fantastic. And another point that you just mentioned, which I think
Brutal Legends 2?
super important, was that it allows you to go back to the main game with some new perspective, which is something that we were actually talking about backstage before this whole interview. Is like you can now go with a fresh set of eyes, and it's really cool to see. Hopefully devs are taking notes on this, because I think this is super important. Now, Asif,
pô, ia ser da hora Brutal Legend 2.
Past few years, and I'm sure Amnesia Fortnite contributed.
Eu acho que alguém falou demais ali.
Takeaways from your experience?
Eu acho que já entregaram umas coisinhas que não era pra falar aí.
I mean, really the biggest thing for me is working with a large group of people over multiple disciplines. That's been like the biggest transition for me, because prior to this, I had just been working with my two collaborators, and we've been working very closely together for a long time, just about filmmaking. But now, I know so much more about what everyone does at the studio. Like, it was one thing to sort of like look over their shoulder and see things on their monitor and have them explain, but now I have like a deeper understanding of how all of those disciplines and what everyone is contributing actually ties together and where those connection points are. So like that's a huge thing that like I can take with me, and it always felt very closed off when I was first starting to do this. I thought like I have no, programming experience. I have no game design experience. I have no computer science background. Like, there's no way I could ever possibly know how to do this. And I really think now, like, if you're like talking to someone that, I would say that like you don't have to know that stuff.
This session right here is one of the most important things I think.
Mais ou menos isso aí mesmo,
haven't gotten into game development are
mano,
utilizing
ficou
Stack Live
meia hora no SSD lá. Mano, acho que tava explicando todos os componentes, solda, tudo ali, mano. Pra quê, mano? Fala que vai fazer ali, vai, ó, essa velocidade aqui, isso aqui, ele dá um exemplo aí, pronto, cara. Mano, o cara tava explicando até as soldas ali do que era feito, quem foi que soldou, quantos anos o cara tinha.
Oh, sorry. Well, I mean, in that specific context, it was more about like what I needed as far as like team makeup goes. Yeah, I guess generally speaking, like just try and like put together a team that has as many diverse skills as possible, because you will all help each other fill in each other's gaps. You don't need to like necessarily find one person that knows how to do everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Now, you mentioned how accessible Tim is as a studio head. Can you tell us again a little bit about what it means to be able to have someone who is the head of a studio that accessible? Has he given you any words of wisdom?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Tim is always good about imparting wisdom. I think the biggest thing, like, I feel like it's come through in a lot of the answers that I've given you today, honestly. Like, all that stuff about being receptive to other people's ideas and branching out and taking inspiration from different forms of media. I think a lot of that comes from
Eu
Tim,
também não joguei ainda não.
I couldn't necessarily pull a direct quote from him, but I know that
Mas dizem que é da hora lá, tem uns rock da hora lá.
different kinds of media and different kinds of experiences when he talks about game ideas. And I think that's where a lot of I take I follow him in that.
Yeah, and I think, again, not to reiterate my point earlier, but I think this has been one of the greatest sessions because it allowed, people to see that progression from documenting a studio's, I guess, day-to-day to becoming a level designer, and how that's all you need is someone to believe in you. All you need is someone to give you that, support, and that allows you to kind of move on. So thank you so much for joining us. This has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. But before we check out this last, we're going to check out, before we move on, we're going to check out this quick word of wisdom from the championship.
I was reading about Wong Kar-wai, the director who's making Ashes of Time, which is like a 3-year epic production. I'm like 3 years. That's no epic. That's basic game dev time. But it was a really long production on location, and it was in China. And he was like, "Oh, everyone's, we're so mired in this. Let's just take 2 weeks off and go to Hong Kong, bring some cameras, and just improvise with actors and have fun and open it up." And he got the basis for Chungking Express and Fallen Angels, I think, from those improv sessions. I just thought that was a really inspiring idea. Like, when you're in the middle of a game production, it can be a really heavy thing. Just like you've been thinking about these characters and this world for so long. Just taking some time off to do something else can be really creatively invigorating to everyone's brain. Our brains are funny because like stuff gets stuck in the pipes. Like, I think our brains have the pipes that easily get gummed up, and you have to kind of flush them out once in a while. You have to get ideas out. That's why I believe in things like free writing. I do a lot of free writing. All these notebooks. I just fill them up. Like someone said I look like the crazy person from Seven, the killer. I fill these notebooks up with just me talking to myself, and like we think about these things, we dream about crazy ideas. We sometimes write them down in private. Like teach you to share their creative work is an important part of it, because that you do it, and unless you meet a really, you know, bad opposition, like your first person who you share a creative idea with laughs at you, and it can be bad. But as long as you get some support, you're like, and I have another idea. I have another idea. You know, I would like to just be an advocate of creativity where I am, because I think it's where the future is, where the next great game idea comes from. Like imitation is very common in the games industry, because something's really popular, you should just and it does work out sometimes. But the big gangbuster titles are really like classics that people look at as really iconic. We're all weird ideas, that just seemed crazy at the time. That's where the next real big hit comes from, is from some idea that sounds weird the first time you say it, and it maybe comes from someone in your company that you weren't looking to make the next big
Gears, Forza, Sea of
But they have it, they're sitting on it, and it's sitting on a notebook, and they won't share it until you push them out there and make them cough it up.
All right, we're making it through the day. Now, we've talked about Gears, Forza, Sea of Thieves, and more over the last 2 days. We want you to know and also hear about another big franchise. Check out the talk from Josh Menke about matchmaking in Halo 5 and how it deepens player engagement. Then we'll be talking about xCloud directly with the team, but if you want to get more about the journey that the team has gone through, listen in with Eric Cohen on their learnings over the past year. And remember, we've got a metric ton more content on our YouTube playlist right now, and we'll make sure to have the panels featured in this live event up on our YouTube playlist soon. Now, we do have some responses coming in on Twitter, and we can get those thrown up on screen. We can read them out right now. This one from Andrew: did not expect to be seeing Dave from Falling Squirrel on the GameStack live stream. What a way to say hello. Here we go. Ricari's shoes will steal the show. We're here to learn more about GameStack Live. Loved hearing about the Xbox Series X and Project Scarlet. The developers explaining their methodology on how they leverage the
cadê a versão do Xbox One?
There's the shoes. Look, I gotta say, I'm
Cadê?
beholden to what was given to me with these. I merely just found something to make it work. I struggled to find something to make it work either way. Do we have one more Twitter post that we can put up? That's it. All right. Well, now it's time once again to catch up with the team over at the Coalition. But this time they're talking Gears Tactics. Take a look.
They came for us. They invaded every part of our world. So we did the only thing we could. We set the world on fire. Now my war begins.
Mano, esse Gears vai ser da hora, hein? Putz. Dá pra virar uma franquia da hora, cara. Pô, velho, sacanagem essa porra não sair no Day One também pra Xbox, cara. Vai tomar no cu. Filha da puta, velho. Play no Air, caralho. Cadê o jogo no Xbox?
Don't go gentle. Bring it, shitheads. Enemy reinforcements. Get out of
É, Xbox.
Just like we planned it.
Tá hesitando, é? Que não dá pra chegar.
Play it with Xbox Game Pass.
Abrir fogo!
Well, that just looks incredibly brutal. Joining us from the coalition in Vancouver, Canada, please welcome Tyler Beelman and Mike Rayner. Guys, how are you doing?
We're doing great.
Oh, wow, and synchronization too. Good to know that we're on the same page here. First of all, how does Gears Tactics relate to the Gears franchise?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to talk about the game. This came out of an effort about 4.5 years ago to really take a look at Gears of War as a brand and figure out, could we take it new places? Can we find new audiences? And how can we really showcase it for everyone? Gears Tactics fits right in with the continuity of the Gears franchise. It takes place in the same universe. The characters in the game are characters that relate to all the games you've played up to this point. So it really is just an extension of the brand and the incredible storytelling that we do in Gears of War, just into a new kind of game.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about that continuity. Where, does it take place during a certain, like Gears 3 or 4 or 5?
Será que é os novos líderes agora aí da Coalition? Um desses caras aí?
It takes place actually about a dozen years.
Se você falar que o jogo vai sair por Xbox no Day One junto com o PC, mano, você pode ser o líder eterno aí desse estúdio.
Just shortly after the emergence.
Mas continuar com essa putaria aí é foda, né?
And our heroes find themselves sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place in that environment.
Well, why did you choose that time? Did you guys want to showcase a little bit before about where Gears of War came from?
Well, for us, we have a lot of different options. You know, Gears of War has a long history, and there's a lot of different points we could have set the game. But we did kind of want to revisit and throw back a little bit to the tone and the attitude of the original Gears of War game. So this is really a story about, you know, characters on the road, soldiers in a bad situation that have to pull together, band together, and accomplish the impossible.
So Gears of War, as we all know it, is a shooter. How have you guys made this game, Gears Tactics, fit into the shooter genre?
Yeah, so this is not a shooter. So this is a turn-based tactics game. So much like a game of checkers or chess, you will take a turn and the enemy will take a turn. And it's very strategic. It's got a lot of the depth to it, but in converting Gears into a turn-based experience, it was really important that we maintain the intensity, the brutality, and a lot of what makes Gears special from a combat point of view. So when you play this game, unlike a lot of other tactics games, this game is very open. The game is not played on a grid, for example. You have 3 actions per unit, so you're not constrained to just a move and a shoot. You can move with all 3 and shoot and use your special skills in different combinations. So bringing that openness to the game and that intensity to the game really allowed us to make it feel like a Gears experience. We also paced up the experience, so you get a lot more enemies per encounter than you might see in a traditional game, and we brought one of our signature mechanics over from Gears, execution. So if you extend one of your units up and deliver an execution to a downed opponent, you will actually get rewarded with bonus actions for your whole squad. And that allows you to build a lot of momentum. So in the same way Gears requires you to balance aggression and your use of cover, we've really found that same special formula with Gears Tactics.
I really do appreciate that you're bringing over elements from Gears of War over to Gears Tactics. Is there anything else that fans of Gears of War should look out for in Gears Tactics? Maybe an homage, something Something that these fans, or you don't even have to answer that. That's supposed to be the secret.
No, there's definitely things for the Gears fan in there. A lot of it does have to do with the story, and we're being a little tight-lipped about certain elements of the story. But the main character is Gabe Diaz. That is Gabe Diaz's father. Kate being, of course, the main character from Gears of War 5. So from a storytelling standpoint, there's a lot going on with him. We also have Khan, our main villain. He is a geneticist. He's the monster who makes the monsters. So he's responsible for Brumox and Corpsers, who are the bosses you would have fought over and over in Gears of War. And additionally, mechanically, we have all of our signature weapons. We have our Lancer chainsaw assault rifle. We have the Nasher shotgun. All of our enemies are, most of the enemies, sorry, we do have.
It uses a compute-based, ray-traced screen space reflection. You can tune that quality and get the best effect based on the performance of your PC rig. There's control for world detail, adding in more layers of visual details, and on the high end, adding more dynamic lights. All the lighting in the game is completely dynamic to support the fact that our worlds are made up of sort of procedural tile sets. So in your gameplay experience, you're never going to get quite the same gameplay run through as you did the last time, because we vary that every time you play the game. There's control over shadow quality, shadow resolution. We have contact shadows. Really, a shadowing system that adds more detail to all the dynamic objects in the game. Really, everything that you might want to be able to control that we've exposed so that gamers can tune it. Post-processing effects, depth of field and cinematics and gameplay, motion blur. You can turn it off. Some gamers don't like motion blur in their games.
I know a few.
Yeah, and I mean, for some people, they get motion sickness, so you can turn that off. Control over like the full post-processing chain, bloom, lens flare, anti-aliasing quality. So we've really invested in the custom options and the settings. For each one of them, there's like low, medium, high, and ultra spec settings. So you can see the visual effect of each one of those, and we provide some feedback on how much it costs, like how much CPU, how much GPU, how much VRAM it consumes, and then we have a benchmark mode in the game, so you can run the benchmark, see how your game performs, and then try different settings and really sort of tune and maximize for your custom rig.
I mean, that's awesome. We all want the best high-end computer out there. We can't all afford those $3,000, $4,000 PCs. So being able to still play this game, fine-tune the graphics and everything that you were just explaining, it so that everyone can have the opportunity to play this game without any hindrance is incredible. And I kind of want to lead into that discussion with another question. That from the trailer, we saw that this game is launching on PC only. What were the things that you focused on to make this a PC game first and foremost, outside of those visual changes?
Sure. Well, we learned quite a bit with Gears of War 5, which we shipped on PC as well. And there was a lot of work we did to optimize for PC, and all of that we brought into the tactics engine. So we use DirectX 12, which allows us to run our rendering across multiple cores, but it also lowers the CPU overhead, graphics setup and graphics drawing pipeline.
Tá da hora esse Gears aí, cara. Puta que pariu, vai ser louco, hein, mano. Filha da puta que não vai sair no dia do lançamento no Xbox, cara. Tomar no cu, Microsoft. Vai tomar no cu.
Our animation, our visual effects system will all scale to both down to like a dual core setup all the way up to however many cores you have. The AI processing in this game is quite heavy. We time slice that AI so that we process it over a number of seconds, so it doesn't bog down your machine. because it forward simulates the world and then picks a decent outcome to have the most sort of intelligent turn-based AI for the enemies you're playing against. On the GPU, we have asynchronous compute, tiled resources, and of course all those settings to let you sort of scale down to support lower end systems.
Você fez todos os suportes, só não fez o suporte pro principal, né? Pro Xbox.
For Gears 5, but then for
Seu
tactics,
filho da
we
puta.
wanted to go even broader. We wanted to support laptops. We wanted to support, PCs that may not have discrete graphics cards. So we really optimized for single core performance, all the way down to dual core machines. We did work to support embedded GPUs and APUs. So, like I said, PCs that don't have discrete graphics cards. We're supporting some new features like variable rate shading, which will allow us to really ensure that we're processing the shading against the pixels that will need it the most. And then we also have content steering, so material complexity, detail objects, and shadows. We tag those in our art process so that as we scale down to support a broader set of PCs, we can also adjust our content, not just the graphics and CPU work. Now, one thing that we've added, that we've done in previous titles as well, but I think is really important, is we have an auto detection of your hardware. So when you first run the game, we'll detect your hardware, your CPU, your GPU, how much VRAM you have, and we'll choose defaults that will default settings that will ensure you have both the best kind of visual setup and the best performing game. So like right out of the gate, you will get the best experience possible. But then of course you can go and
Acabou? Thanks for watching.
Based on your preferences.
That is awesome. Mike and Tyler, thank you guys so much for sharing that. Gears Tactics looks amazing, and it's going to be launching on Steam, Windows 10, and Xbox Game Pass for the PC on April 28th. Now I'm going to be walking over and joining Thinking for what I think is the last time. Oh, you're gonna cry?
No, I'm not gonna cry.
Okay, good.
I don't have tears.
The show may be over, everyone, but for many of you, the discovery has just begun. Guys, what did you think of the last 2 days?
Ricari? Ton of fun. I mean, I said the word a whole bunch of
Acho que eu
times.
saí errado,
What a
acho
way
que
to
não
pivot
deu.
in such a small amount of time, and what a production it became.
Yeah.
And what a chance to connect with a ton of people that we otherwise wouldn't have seen.
That's right. I mean, I would agree. I would say just the content for developers who are looking to start making games or who are already like veterans, and we kind of set that up at the beginning of the first day. The wealth of knowledge that was shared over the past few days, I think GameStack 1 is going to be a great set of tools, but then also just, there's so much knowledge, and it's been great to see that shared. What about you, Kelly?
Man, I mean, it's all been amazing, and like you guys were saying, just being able to talk to people, learn so much from them. But I'm actually a little sad. I wasn't aware that Brutal Legend 2 was supposed to be a thing and didn't obviously. So I'm a little bummed. I'm also bummed that this is ending because this has been a great experience. Just like you guys were saying, though, I mean, shout outs to our crew, the production, everyone that put this together in such a short amount of time. We're just here speaking the words. It's really all of them that made this happen, guys. So, I mean, and also the people in Discord chatting and letting us know their opinions and asking questions too. It's been a great experience overall.
Absolutely.
So everyone, make sure to check out our YouTube playlist for all the resources you need to take your game development to the next level with GameStack. And don't forget to keep up with us on all the socials. Keep the conversation going, everyone. We love to hear from you. Don't laugh, Ricari. Plus, while GDC may be canceled, but the Independent Games Festival and Game Developers Choice Awards will be streaming live today. Oh, wow. I didn't realize that was today, but that's awesome. 8 p.m. ET, 5 p.m. PT. You can head on over to GDconf, that's CONF.com, for more details.
Now for DirectX fans, listen up. The Microsoft DirectX team is hosting the first Mixer DirectX Developer Day, streaming live tomorrow. That's Thursday, March 19th at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. They'll be talking about the next major evolution of DirectX and detailing how developers can use all of the latest technology to make incredible games. Hardware partners will also be joining them to talk about the new technology and hardware, plus engineers will be online all day to answer questions on Mixer and in Discord. So head on over to mixer.com/DirectX tomorrow.
That's right. And remember, GameStack was created to help you dream about the next great title. So whether you're a new developer or a seasoned pro, GameStack solution can get you where you want to go. Until next time, see you around.
Thank you for joining GameStack Live. I hope this content opened up new ideas and will get you closer to your goals. Over these 2 days, you've learned how our open ecosystem approach with GameStack can help you better build, distribute, and operate your games. We've shown how you can bring all the tools you love to GameStack and make your experience even better. Our first-party studios and ID at Xbox program participants provided behind-the-scenes looks into their development process. Continue the conversation online. Please share your feedback. We can't wait to see what you will create.
Teraflop Beast. Sorry, excuse me. Sorry.
We heard it already.
The Xbox Series X.
As they're pressing button inputs on the gamepad, but I can kind of react to that feedback on the fly.
And just make funky parties and make funky choices and just test out the game for fun.
This looks awesome.
Empowering game creators to realize their dreams.
You stole my answers.
Right, I'm back in my corner, right where I belong.
Right
there. Way to make people feel welcome. Way to make us feel welcome too. And yes, we do play.
Awesome, thanks, Chief. I'll take it from here.
Xbox Series X.
Thank you.
How do I get players access to the right thing at the right time, at the right moment?
Okay.
Did Ricari pay to get his tweet up here?
I think
Unbelievable.
so. I heard him talking a little bit back in the production.
Ricari's shoes will steal the show. We're here to learn more about GameStack Live. Awesome job.
Foi bem não. Pra mim foi total merda. Não tem porra nenhuma. Teve, eu não sei lá, eles falaram algumas coisas, mas não sei se foi vazamento, você tem... sei lá. A única coisa que valeu a pena aí foi o... mostrando a gameplayzinha lá do Gear Statics. Puta, eu vou passar vontade até essa merda sair pra PC. Foda.
A bomba tá pronta. Destruir por dentro, hein? Parece que a gente ficar junto, podemos sair dessa bagunça.
Deixa eu voltar a ver os memes aqui na internet, que tá da hora.
acionada. Se preparem para uma briga daquelas. Temos que lutar para chegar no rei. Hora de lutar! Recarregar! Bomba de veneno colocada. Agora não tem volta. Agora, vamos para o ponto de extração. Hora de dor.
Binho, falou porra nenhuma, só mostrou lá uns negócios lá, mostrou um Gears Tactics que eu fiquei passando a vontade e não tem data pra console, né? Pra variar, né? Esse filho da puta. Foda. Pois é, os 2 eventos aí foi pra dormir mesmo, porque não teve porra nenhuma. Tá louco.
Você tá hesitando. Bora, vamos para o ponto de extração. Fazendo barulho! Bomba de veneno colocada. Se preparem para uma briga. Se a gente ficar junto, podemos sair dessa bagunça. Fazendo barulho! Recarregar! bomba tá pronta. Destruir por dentro. Vamos para o ponto de extração. Hora de dor.
Galerinha, eu vou finalizar aqui. Vou continuar a farmar até chegar ao level 100. Eu vou jantar, tomar um banho e já volto. Aí a gente joga lá dentro do Resident 3, beleza? Então valeu pra todo mundo aí, até já já. Fui.